Hi everyone, and welcome to day 8 of our 30-day fit and health challenge. Today we're going to have another tutorial and we're going to be talking about how to set the shoulders. So we've been talking about how to align our joints, how to activate the muscles surrounding that joint for increased stability, and today now we've reached the shoulder joint. So just like we want to brace our core and just how we want to ground our feet into the floor, we also want to make sure that we're setting and aligning the shoulders properly in order to get that good transfer of power and transfer of force while we are doing our exercises. So if we think about the anatomy of the shoulder, it's not a full ball and socket joint like the hip is, it's actually only partially covered. So depending on how we move that humerus, that arm bone around, we're either exposing the bone or we're protecting it. And whenever we put our arm in a poor position, so let's say if I just stick it out here, I'm actually exposing that humerus, and that increases our chance of injury, and we're going to get less power out of it. So I'm going to talk to you guys about how we want to set the shoulders, and that's going to help protect that shoulder joint from injury, and we'll be able to produce more force from it whenever we do our exercises. So the first thing I'm going to do today is break down that concept of setting the shoulders and how we want to do it. Give you guys a few exercises to do in different positions to practice that setting the shoulders motion. And then I'm going to finish off by giving you a few stretches and mobility exercises, because the better we can actually move our shoulder joints around and the less stiffness we have, the easier it's going to be to properly set that shoulder into the right position. So when we talk about the breakdown of how to set our shoulders, the first thing we want to talk about is our posture. So many people's resting posture is slouched, so you'll see the shoulders turned in, and you might even see that head tilted forward or coming out forward. So we want to be able to think about having a nice tall posture, because we need to have that spine in a neutral position in order to really pull the shoulder blades back where they need to be and essentially set our shoulders. Because if you guys are slouched over here and you think about or try to pull your shoulders back, it becomes really difficult. Right. So once we are, and you guys can be sitting if that's a little bit easier for you, I'm comfortable on my knees. So now that we're standing nice and tall, okay, our head also is nice, looking forward so that our neck is also neutral. The easiest way to think about setting your shoulders is to pull your shoulders forward, do a circle with your shoulders, and on the way back, you want to pull them down to the floor and slightly squeeze your shoulder blades together. So from the front position here, we see that that chest really opens up. And now if we have a lot of tension through our chest muscles, essentially if we're slouched often forwards, it's a common problem we're going to see, we need to do some soft tissue in here, because the less tension we have there, the easier it's going to be to open that up as we pull our shoulder blades back. And now from the back position, we'll see that there's slight rotation in the shoulder blades, and there is a squeeze here. We see the shoulder blades come together as we pull down to the floor. Now for a few exercises to practice this, the first thing we can do is just practice the movement. So seated in a good comfortable position or standing up nice and tall, you would just do the circle, pull the shoulder blades down and back, so down towards the floor and shoulder blades together. Feel the squeeze of the shoulder blades, hold for a few seconds, and relax. And then again, so just doing this on repeat, really feeling the shoulder blades pulling down with the floor and together. And squeezing for a few seconds. Perfect. So however many times you feel you need to do that, that's just going to kind of teach our body how that should feel. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, you'll probably start feeling a better squeeze out of that motion. Our next exercise is just to be switching our position up. So we're going to go on all fours. Okay, when we get on our hands and knees, we'll do the exact same motion. So I'm going to do my circle, and now here, I'm going to push away from the floor a little bit as I pull my shoulder blades down towards my butt, and I squeeze. Okay, and I would relax, do my little circle, and squeeze. Good. So changing our orientation can make the exercise a little bit harder, and it's just getting our body used to feeling that activation and getting the shoulder blades in the right position, whatever way you're oriented. Okay, so now we're gonna get into a push-up position as our next progression, and what that does is it's gonna add extra load. Okay, so we have extra weight because our knees are off the ground. So in my push-up position, and I'm gonna do the same thing, a little circle and squeeze. Now we do have to push away from the floor here, just because I have that extra weight, but I'm still squeezing my shoulder blades down, so down towards my hips. And then a bit of relaxation, circle, and squeeze. Perfect, so that's making the exercise harder by adding a load. And there's one more progression I want to show you, and it's going to have less load, so less weight on your hands, but we're going to add how dynamic the movement is. So now for our fourth exercise, we're adding some dynamic movement. So we want to see if we can keep that shoulder blade set into place as we add a little bit of movement. What you're going to do is you need a ball, any kind of ball will do, open palm, and you're going to add just a little bit of pressure here to make sure the ball doesn't fall down. What we're going to do is pull that shoulder down and back, so now I know that my shoulder blade is in the right position, and I'm going to write out the alphabet. So I'm going to go my A, B, and as I'm doing this, I'm making sure that I don't let go of that shoulder and end up in a rounded position. So if we need to set, do one letter, and then set again, we could do that as much as we need until we get used to holding that tension. And that's what this exercise is great for. Now I'm going to move on to showing you guys a few soft tissue exercises and stretches to make sure that we gain mobility through the shoulder and it makes it easier for us to set the shoulder properly. So again, we're going to use our ball. If you guys have a lacrosse ball, a golf ball, anything like that, the harder and the smaller it is, the more you'll be able to dig in there, but also the more it might hurt, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lean against the wall. I'm gonna put that ball into my chest, and I'm just gonna do some back and forth movements and then some circles. Okay. So here I can have my arm out to the side wherever it's comfortable, and I'm just gonna play around, adding pressure against the ball. And that's gonna work my fascia and my pec. So it's a connective tissue that surrounds your muscles. And if we can loosen that up, it really can help that muscle move better. And something that we can do here is also switch the position of our arm. So if I show you on this side here, I can have my arm at 90 degrees. And I control how much pressure I put in. But I can also straighten out my arm here. Or I can put it straight out, maybe a little bit lower. Our next exercise to open up the chest area and the upper body is going to be with a foam roller. What we're going to do is get right into the lat. So if you don't have a foam roller, you can use some kind of sports ball if you have any around the house. What you're going to do is lie down on your side. You want to kind of line the foam roller with your armpit and lift the hips off the ground just a little bit and foam roll up and down here. Okay, so keep some pressure on the feet. If you guys are really tight, this might be quite painful, so you're gonna have to do it a few days in a row, maybe a few weeks in a row, to really start loosening up in there, okay? And now if we can get that arm, that hand behind the ear, we're stretching these muscle fibers, opening them up, and that's gonna let us get even deeper into the tissue. Okay, so even if you have to slide your hips on the floor here, if it hurts too much, that's okay. But try to put as much pressure as you can within that shoulder blade. So next up we have a stretch that's going to help stretch out the pec area. We're going to get on all fours and we want to slide one hand away from the chest, bring our chest or shoulder down to the ground and look to the opposite hand. Okay, so same thing here, slide it straight out to the side, look away, and pull back. And something that we can do here is actually change the angle. So if I want to start putting it out to a 45-degree angle instead of straight out, I might see if it feels tighter, if it feels looser. And we can play around, maybe even slide that hand out a little bit lower. Kind of play around here. Important thing is that we're really pushing that chest as close to the ground as we can. And we do have a couple options. If we are doing it before a workout, we want to keep those arms moving. We only want to hold it for a couple seconds before we flip over to the other side. But if you guys are doing this after a workout, or if you're just doing a mobility session working on your shoulders, or if you're just practicing setting your shoulders, you can hold that stretch for 20 to 30 seconds, pushing that shoulder into the ground. After that, our next exercise working on range of motion is just going to be shoulder circles. So you could be seated, you could be on your knees, and we're just going to try and do big shoulder circles, as big as you can. You can either do them with your hands down like I am now, and then we can switch directions. Okay, shoulders forwards and backwards circles, or we can use our hands using our thumbs in behind us here, opening up through the palms, doing big arm circles. So we could do one or the other. And again, we want to go forwards and backwards. And the more that we can do this and get those shoulders moving, again, the more that's going to help us. So doing the same shoulder circle exercise just on all fours. Now we can think about doing a big circle with our hands on the ground. Forwards and then backwards. We really want to exaggerate the movement here. So even if we slow it down, think of getting the shoulders away from the ears and then as close to the ears as possible. We want to exaggerate that movement. And now the next two, instead of doing the circle and doing the full movement of the shoulder, what we're going to do is we're going to separate the movement of the shoulder. So first, we're going to work on just squeezing the shoulder blades and pushing away from the floor. So we're not moving our hips, okay? We're just going to keep the core braced, but I don't want to see any curvature of the spine. Just think about squeezing those shoulder blades together and then pushing away from the floor. So it's a straight forward backwards movement. And then we're going to do just the upwards and downwards motion. So think about, again, not moving the spine, and pull the shoulders up to your ears and then away from your ears. Up to your ears and away from your ears. We don't want to push away from the floor or let our shoulder blades dip. Try and keep it neutral. So that's not only going to teach our body that full circular motion, but if we can get used to separating that, it's also pretty difficult, and that's going to help us gain control of how our shoulders and our scaps and everything move. Okay, so give those exercises a try. Practice just setting those shoulders, and then tomorrow when we do our upper body circuit, we'll really have something new to focus on and setting those shoulders before we do all of our exercises.